Welcome back to another episode of NumbHER Talks with your host, Aunt Stacy. This week's question comes from a viewer out in Omaha, Nebraska. His name is Jonathan Wayne Bennock, and here's his question.
Isn't it impossible for numbers to go on? And how do people name all of them?
What a fantastic question. And in fact, this is quite common question that I get asked. If you might remember, a few years ago, we had another viewer ask a very similar question.
Aunt Stacy, how can I count to the end of numbers?
They're fantastic questions. And I love that your brain is being stretched to inquire about such concepts. So without any further ado, let's talk numbers. So the question is, isn't it impossible for numbers to go on? And that's what we're going to explore. So let's start with counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we could go on, right? But I'm going to stop there. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not all. What if I wanted to consider the halves? Now I have 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, and again, I could keep going. But I'm going to pause. What if I wanted to go further and count fourths? Now my 1 to 4 just got much more complex, right? So even with just counting the numbers that we know, there are so many to count if we wanted to consider all of the numbers, right? But let's get into the big numbers. Big numbers like 1,000,000. We can get bigger than that. 1 billion. Can we do better than that? How about quadrillion? What happens after quadrillion? Does it go on? Or is this just so big that it stops? Well, let's think about it. If I have quadrillion, what would happen if I add 1 to it? Quadrillion and 1.
Could I add another 1? Sure, I could. And I would get quadrillion and 2. Could I add another 1? Of course. And I would get quadrillion and 3.
So does it stop or does it go on? Well, let's consider this. Could I just take any number? You give me any number. Can I just take that number and add 1 to it? Of course we can. We can always take the biggest number you think possible and add 1 to it. And this is what we would say in mathematics, n plus 1. Take any number and add 1 to it. So the question is it impossible for it to go on? In fact, there are no limits to numbers. And this is what we call infinity. Now, infinity is not a number. It's what we call a concept. But it's the idea that numbers can go on and on and on. All you got to do is add 1 to it, right? Infinity, this is a really pretty symbol for an infinity. And why it's this symbol is because
no matter where you start, when I draw, it's going to go, yep, you guessed it, on and on and on. You get the picture.
So to answer your question, no, it is not impossible for numbers to go on and on. In fact, they do go on and on. There are no limits. And that's why we have this idea of infinity. We would say numbers are infinite. Now for the second question. How did people name all of them? What a great question. In fact, I teach high school, and my high schoolers, they ask all the time, who invented math? At which I tell them, my dad did. This is just a joke. Who did invent them and who named them? What a fabulous question. So the number system that we use today was actually thought of 20,000 years ago. Well, not the number system itself, but counting was. And in fact, you can see here in front of you, they used animal bones to count. And they kind of counted the way we think of tally marks. So if I keep tally marks, I might say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tally marks. I would use this to help me keep track. And that's what they did. Back in the days before English was even invented, by the way. And they would keep track on things such as bones, like I said. Here's an example of a bone that was found. And you can see there these tally marks that were used in the bone to help them keep track of whatever it was that they were needing to keep track of. Maybe it was days, maybe it was the meals that they were preparing, or maybe it was the animals that they had. But this is how they kept track. And soon, though, we needed more of a system, what we call the number system, to help keep track, because tally marks became what we call cumbersome. It became a lot. And so we needed some sort of system to help organize these numbers. And so in 4000 BC in Sumeria, which is the Mesopotamia area historically, which we now know as Iraq, really. The Babylonians came up with this system. And it was all in Arabic, actually. But they came up with a system that is very similar to what we use today. But look at all of these really cool ways that people were coming up with the number system. All of these are different representations of the number system that we use today. And you can see the one that we use today right here. And this is called base 10 number system. There are 10 numbers ones here that can make up any number that you want to make, because we know that they go on and on. Time for challenge. We know the number system in base 10. My challenge is to you is to inquire about base 2, what we know as the binary system, used a lot in computer science. Do you know anybody who might know a thing or two about computer science? Okay, my challenge to you, I want you to write the number 13, which is currently written in base 10, and I want you to figure out how to write it in base 2. I can't wait to see what you come up with.
Hi, Stacy.
Hi, Jonathan. Hi, Melanie. I love you very much. Thank you for joining me on this week's episode of NumbHER Talks. Love you.